All right, let's just dive right in. We have all been there, right? You get this huge burst of motivation, you're going to start a new habit. And then, poof, around week 3, it just fizzles out. Well, today, we are going to talk about the single biggest reason why so many of us feel like failures, the incredibly frustrating and completely false 21-day habit rule. Seriously, think about it. You decide you're going to start meditating every morning, or maybe you're going to hit the gym 3 times a week. The first couple of weeks, you are on fire. You feel amazing. And then, life happens. You miss a day. Then you miss 2. And before you know it, that 3-week mark has come and gone, and you're right back where you started, feeling totally defeated. Okay, I really want you to let this sink in. Your inability to lock in a brand new behavior in just 21 days is not a personal failure. It has nothing to do with a lack of willpower. It's because you were following a timeline that was never, ever based on science. You were basically given the wrong map and told to find a hidden treasure. So on one hand, you have this incredibly popular myth. And here's a fun fact. It actually came from a plastic surgeon back in the 1960s, a Dr. Maxwell Maltz. He just noticed that it took his patients about 21 days to get used to their new faces. It was an observation about self-image, not about behavior. But somehow that little anecdote snowballed into this universal rule. And on the other hand, well, we have a mountain of modern neuroscience that tells a completely different story. So what is that story? What does the science actually say? Let's get into the real evidence and look at the research that finally gives us a realistic target, one that's based on how our brains are actually wired. Now, this research is a total game changer, and here's why. This wasn't just some small one-off study. In 2024, researchers at the University of South Australia, led by Dr. Singh, did the first ever systematic review on this. That's the gold standard in science. They took the data from 20 different studies, that's over 2,600 people, to get the clearest picture we have ever had. And here it is. This is the number that should replace 21 in your brain. The study found the median time, the real midpoint, for a new health habit to start feeling automatic is between 59 and 66 days. That is not 3 weeks. That's over 2 months. It's because for a habit to stick, the behavior has to move from your conscious, high-effort prefrontal cortex to your automatic autopilot basal ganglia. And that handoff just takes time and a lot of repetition. But wait, it gets even crazier. To show you just how much this can vary from person to person, the study found that some people needed up to 335 days. That's almost a full year for a really complex habit to become second nature. This completely shatters the idea that there's a one-size-fits-all timeline. And honestly, it's a protective feature. Our brains are slow to automate things, so we don't accidentally lock in bad, impulsive decisions. And this quote from the researchers themselves just says it all. That 3-week point, the exact moment where so many of us feel discouraged and just quit, is actually when we need to keep going. Giving up at 21 days is like stopping a marathon 3 miles in because you haven't crossed the finish line yet. Okay, so we know the real timeline now, but knowing how long it takes is really only half the battle, right? The research also gave us clues about how to actually make it happen. So let's look at the key factors they found that can dramatically boost your chances of success because you're working with your brain instead of fighting against it. It all boils down to working smarter, not just harder. The keys are timing, finding some genuine enjoyment in what you're doing, and some smart planning. This isn't about having superhuman willpower. It's about designing a system for yourself that makes the new habit the path of least resistance. So how do we make this practical? For planning, it's about reducing friction. You can use habit stacking. Just anchor your new habit to one you already have. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will journal for 1 page. And start microscopic. Don't aim for a 45-minute workout. Start with just 2 minutes of stretching. Make it so easy you can't say no. For enjoyment, try what's called temptation bundling. You pair your new habit with something you already love. Like you only let yourself listen to your favorite podcast while you're out for a walk. Okay, let's put all of this together. Let's build a new, science-backed game plan. It's time to completely reframe your approach. Toss out that old, broken 21-day model and embrace a strategy that is way more patient and way more effective. So the first part of your new mantra is this. 3 weeks is not the finish line. It's not a magic finish line where everything suddenly becomes easy and automatic. And here's the second part. Think of that 3-week mark as the end of the warm-up. That's the point where your brain is just starting to do the heavy lifting, just starting to build those new pathways in your basal ganglia. This is where consistent, repeated action becomes absolutely critical. So the most important thing is this: arm yourself with patience. Know that you are playing the long game here. And one final crucial warning: ditch the perfectionism. Missing one day does not erase all your progress. In fact, a lot of those streak tracking apps can actually be counterproductive because they punish you for any little lapse. Research shows self-compassion is way more effective. Just get back on track the next day. You're rewiring your brain, not programming a computer. And that leaves us with one final thought. Now that you have the right map, now that you know the real timeline, what's that one habit you've struggled with that you're now willing to give a real, honest 66-day shot? Forget 21. Give yourself a real chance to succeed.